What the heck is Formula One?
Pole position, strategy,
yachts and parties,
safety car, Ferrari.
beautiful corners.
Oh, right, okay. There's a car in front of you. Try and overtake it.
Oh, I hate you so much.
Hello, you fools. Welcome back to another Formula Fools podcast. I'm David, your self-appointed expert, and with me is Skin, the local fool on this podcast.
Hello.
How are you going, Skin?
Oh, I'm still very foolish.
Good. From pit lane antics to racing riddles, we're here to make you laugh and question your sanity. I got the and there this time, though, Skin. Sit back, buckle up. It's time for Formula Fools. We're going to kick things off straight off the bat with a hot lap recap, and we had a request. I've completely forgotten the person's name, but let me just quickly go into our DMs here. Absolutely seamless. Georgia said she was unhappy that we didn't play the hot lap recap jingle on the last Chinese Grand Prix.
Oh, God.
Because Skin hates it. So Georgia said, screw you, Skin. This is not all what Georgia said. She said, screw you, Skin. We're playing it.
Is over. It's that time in the show for the hot lap recap. Let's go. The race is over. It's that time in the show for the hot lap recap. Let's go.
And that's all we've got time for.
Yeah, I see why we resolved that. Anyway, Ryan has got a hot lap recap for us.
Welcome, friends and fools. It is the Hot Lap Recap, where I'm supposed to cram the Japanese Grand Prix into a Suzuka's lap worth of time. And here we go. Max Verstappen took the win, his fourth in a row at this place and his first of the season. He started on pole with a lap so good it probably deserves his own trophy. And then he fended off McLaren's Lando Norris and Oscar Piastri for all 53 laps. Norris crossed the line 1.4 seconds back, Piastri 2.1 seconds behind, and well, that's your podium. Verstappen's now just one measly point off Norris in the championship, which is closer than most of us are to admitting that Dave is sometimes right about things. McLaren had the speed, but couldn't find the gap. They pitted Piastri early to dodge Russell's undercut. Fair enough, George was lurking. And then they synced Norris with Max a lap later. Now, Norris got a snappy stop, tried to sneak alongside in the pits alongside Max, but Max held firm. Next thing you know, Norris is mowing the spark-charred grass, muttering something about fairness on the team radio. But the stewards didn't blink, and Norris later shrugged it off with a well played, Max. Yeah, you were all right, I suppose. Piastri, meanwhile, was dropping hints that, yeah, I could have taken Max, but McLaren weren't in the mood for a team shuffle. The top three finished 2.2 seconds apart, just like they'd rehearsed it. Beyond that, it was a bit of a procession, wasn't it? Charles Leclerc held fourth for Ferrari. George Russell, fifth for Mercedes. Kimi Antonelli bagged sixth. He led for a stint as well, nabbed the fastest lap and set records as the youngest driver to do either. Sorry, Max, your teenage glory days have just got overshadowed. Lewis Hamilton crept up to seventh on some very strange oddball tyre choice, the only top 10 mover after he nudged past Isaac Hadjar, who settled for eighth. Alex Albon took ninth for Williams. Dave's already ordered the commemorative mug, and Ollie Behrman rounded out the points in 10th for Haas. Haas chaps probably screaming, "Future champions!" in his diary, ignoring the fact that Ocon came limping home in 18th. Ouch. Yuki Tsunoda's Red Bull debut landed him 12th. Polite applause from the home crowd for that Honda Japan-themed livery. All white and red. Beautiful it was, before they then immediately peeled it off post-race for their next virtue signalling venture. Liam Lawson, back at Racing Bulls, rolled in 17th. So about right, really. Friday's practice was the real fireworks, though. Sparks setting the grass ablaze and red flags galore. Race day, rain showed up pre-race and put out all the fun and left us with a grid that barely budged past the front. Verstappen owned it, McLaren flirted with greatness, and Antonelli gave us something to Google at the end of the race. Back to you, Dave and Skin. And Dave, give us a bell, mate, because I've got some lovely Lewis Hamilton tattoo designs to show you for when you lose your bet. See you later.
The bet was me saying that Williams were going to finish in 6th.
Right.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's not going to be a Lewis
That was
tattoo.
bold.
Listen, I've got rules to the tattoo. No Lewis, Toto, or Christian. Anything else will be fine. I don't understand what he means by the Kimi thing at the end. What are we Googling about Kimi?
Perhaps the other youngest people to ever lead a lap.
Yeah.
Just general records about young drivers, maybe.
Yeah, probably.
It's about all I could think of.
Go skin. Another young driver who has records as a young driver, who's probably not so young anymore, Max Verstappen.
That is a terrible segue.
But you know what I mean? He holds he's the youngest driver to win a F1 race, and Kimi almost took it off him, can't take it off him anymore. So he still holds that record. He had a great weekend. Fantastic.
Yep.
What do you reckon, Skin?
Yeah, I mean, it's tough to disagree with. He finished qualifying on pole and then won the race. That's pretty much as good as it gets, really.
That's what you call domination.
Yeah, that's what you're trying to do.
Yeah, but his qualifying lap was just genuinely unreal.
Yeah, see, I've heard a lot of people say this.
Okay.
I watched the lap.
Yep.
It looked like he drove the car around ever so slightly quicker than other people did.
Yep.
What am I missing? Why is this such a good lap? It's Christian Horner said it could be his best lap ever.
Yeah, I agree. I think that could be one of his best qualifying laps he's ever done.
What's so special about this lap?
The Red Bull car is definitely not the fastest car. Like everyone up and down the grid, in the paddock, all the engineers, everyone is saying the Red Bull is probably 3rd fastest car, maybe 4th fastest car, behind the Mercedes, behind the McLarens, and on par close to the Ferraris. So the fact that he's put it up there and he's done a pole lap that is even within a 10th of the McLarens is very impressive. He's out driving the car. He's really pulling it out the back. And I think when you look at his progression from free practice 1 through to qualifying, it looked like he was not going to do that. Like it was even in qualifying 1 and 2, he was there, but he wasn't faster. He definitely, like the fact he got a 1:16 or whatever the lap time was, 1:26, whatever it was. The fact that he got that and was the only person to get that, or not the only person, I guess they would have got it as well, but he was like the first person to get it or did it by the fastest amount, is just insane in that car. Like it's insane how he is pushing that car to be faster than the McLarens or on par with the McLarens. And now only 1 point behind Lando as well. Like McLaren should be dominating this championship and they're just not. I know we're 3 races in, but a lot of people are saying this and a lot of people are agreeing that McLaren might be throwing this away. And Max is capitalizing just like we knew Max would.
Okay. All right.
You know what I'm saying?
Sort of, yeah.
Yeah.
When you say McLaren could be throwing this away, you mean the Drivers' Championship?
Yeah.
Surely they're not. They can't. Like,
No,
the thing
I would-
about Red Bull is
Yeah.
Max is very good, but
Max is very good, yeah.
no one else is very good in
Yeah.
that car.
But then, like, the Constructors' Championship is great, but they won it last year. So if they just go out racing again this year and win the Constructors but don't win the Drivers, then that's quite disappointing because they outright so far have the fastest car and they're just, I don't know, they're tripping over each other. They're giving Max points away from their own construction, their own drivers who could be fighting for the Drivers' Championship. And I just think another weekend like this coming weekend, then Max is leading the championship and McLaren are going to be holding the dick in the hands a bit like confused. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I know what you're saying. I guess you would be confused.
Yeah. Some of the side of a racetrack like that, it's not a good place to be. But yeah, he had a great race. Start was really clean. I was expecting, I don't know if you saw, but on our Instagram stories, I put a prediction out that him and Lando were going to have a little bit of a coming together at the first corner and then neither would finish, or Max certainly wouldn't finish. But no, he was very clean. He defended it well into turn 1 and then just no one could touch him after that, really.
Yeah, okay. Hey, something I wanted to ask about the start.
Yep.
Max and Lando were at the front of the grid, obviously, and both like pointed in towards each other. Is that normal? That was the first time I've ever noticed that.
They do it. Yeah. So tracks like this where you know that qualifying is more important than the race, as in it's a difficult track to overtake on. You'll see drivers at an extreme angle like they both were at an extreme angle because they want to cover each other off. So Lando would be doing it to try and attack Max and Max would be doing it to try and cover Lando off. So if, let's say Max in his second phase of his start, like he hits the gear and he gets some rear wheel spin or he's just not gripping the track as good as Lando would have then been able to push Max to as far to the right-hand side of the track as they're sitting, so that he could then have a better corner entry than Max would have had, and therefore would have taken the lead off of him and really attacked him. So it's just aggressive start procedures. We see it quite often. During 2021, Max v. Lewis, both of them every weekend was like that. But yeah, I think on tracks like this weekend in Bahrain, we're probably not going to see it as significant as we just did, because you can overtake on track.
Mm-hmm.
So it's going to be a little less obvious, but they'll do it most weekends.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then, so you've spoken about it was a tough track to overtake.
Yeah.
I definitely noticed that. I think
You see how like the top 6 just didn't move?
top 6 didn't move at all. The top 10, I think it was only Lewis overtook Hadjar.
Yep.
And then there were a few little bits and pieces down the bottom, but there was really not much happening.
Yeah.
Why is Japan such a tough track to overtake on? It didn't look like there are particularly narrow roads like you say, your Monacos and whatnot. Yeah. For a fool, it looks like it should be easy to overtake. You know? Like
for sure.
There are wide roads, just fucking drive faster than the guy in front of you.
Yeah. The problem we've got around Japan is there's a lot of, the cars are really wide, the cars are really long, and most of the corners are medium speed corners. So they're not heavy braking zones, or they're not super fast corners where you can make mistakes, apart from 130R, which is not really a corner anymore. It's a straight. But like, because you've got all these medium speed corners, air quotes, it means that it's really hard to follow through them corners. So it means by the time you get to a deep braking zone, like into the chicane after 130R or into the first turn, which isn't even really a deep braking zone, but like they're the only 2 real overtaking spots on the track. By the time you get there, you've already lost any advantage, because it's really hard to follow through all the center S's and all the rest of the medium speed corners. It's just very difficult to follow people. Even the hairpin now is really difficult to follow. So like, it just makes it boring racing most of the time, because there's no real overtaking opportunities anymore, but with this era of cars. Mm-hmm. But you mentioned something interesting there, though, that, you know, Verstappen, or not there, but earlier on you mentioned it, Verstappen got pole and then got the win. I didn't quite put 2 and 2 together here. China, Piastri got pole, Piastri got the win. China sprint, Hamilton got pole, Hamilton got the win. Australia, Norris got pole, Norris got the win. So far, qualifying this season is the most important thing, because whoever qualifies on pole has gone on to win the race. 4 in 4.
Wow.
So, yeah, that was an interesting stat that I read this morning. And like I said, pre-season, this is going to be a boring ass season, and no one believed me. And we had quite a few people saying, oh no, last year was great. It's going to be just like last year. Wrong. Maybe not wrong. Who knows? It could get spiced up.
It's still a little bit spicy, like the Drivers' Championship having 1 point in it for first place. It's like...
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, but that's more McLaren, like, just being wieners and not doing anything. Like, if they carry on like this all season, we're going to have 16 races this season out of the 24 exactly like that one. Where like not a lot have, without weather or a crash, McLaren aren't going to do anything, I don't think. And we're going to just keep getting these boring races. Yeah, let's talk about the Lando Max pit stop incident, because it's the only thing that happened in the race. What was your opinion on that, Skin? Because I'm very keen to hear a fool's opinion.
I thought it all looked fine, really. Like, so Max's pit stop was slightly slower, like a whopping 3.3 seconds or something. It was like everyone was like, "Oh, that's a terrible, terrible pit stop." It's like literally quite fast still. Anyways, so it was like ever so slightly slower, which gave Lando a chance to have a crack, and it's like the only chance he had up until that point and ever got, as it turned out. So of course he would have a go at trying to make the most of it. Nothing looked dangerous. It just it wasn't a big enough chance. It was fine. Good. Okay, great. That's literally the perfect analysis. That's exactly what I wanted from you, Skin. You've learned a lot. You're not a fool anymore. You graduate. Look at me go. That's exactly what it was. The only thing I did find funny was how, like, immediately after it, both drivers are on the blower saying like, he did this, he did that, like just trying to get a penalty to the other guy. And then the race ends, and they're like, you get that little footage of them in the back, or maybe it was in an interview or something, and they were like, so what did you make of that incident? I mean, it was fine. Yeah, he was just like, he just held his line. It was normal. You cheeky bastard. The biggest blow up for then just like completely deck chairing the moment they see a replay of it. Like it was, like it's exactly how you just said it. It was one of them. It was, Lando went for something because there was a slight opportunity, and it was
it wasn't really, there was, it wasn't there, and he just tried his luck and got unlucky. He didn't lose positions. He didn't damage his car. So the fact that people are still talking about it is bizarre because it was nothing, and the stewards put it down to nothing as well. I thought, if anything, McLaren were in the wrong because they released Lando into the path of Max somewhat, and that kind of made the drama. But the FIA didn't think that they deserved a unsafe release, I guess, because they were the last pit box, and it's quite a wide pits down Japan. So yeah, like it was such a nothing thing, but it was very interesting hearing the blow ups. Even Max getting on the radio and saying, "Oh, he pressed his pit lane speed limiter, so he was speeding in the pit lane." It's like, fuck, the guy's gone 2.5 meters out of his pit box. How could he be? He's not gone above 80 k's an hour in 2.5 meters or whatever it is.
Yeah, so they're both just trying to essentially get a penalty for the other driver.
Yeah, fuck yeah. They're just trying to do anything they can to just get the other car under investigation and either put pressure on or get a legit penalty. But I think it was obvious the moment we saw, the race, the TV directors completely messed it up, because as it was happening, they cut away to Charles Leclerc's pit stop. So we just missed the live thing and then had to watch it all on replays. I think the moment everyone saw the replay, everyone was like, that's kind of nothing. Max couldn't do anything. Lando couldn't really do anything. McLaren sent him into the path of him. So yeah, it was a bit Wienersville all around. But yeah, McLaren just nowhere with the strategy. The way I look at what they did with Lando's strategy, they should have done with Lando, either when they first said for him to pit, they should have pitted him then. He was 1.4, I think, off of Max. Could have tried an undercut with Max having a slow pit. He may have passed him on track. Obviously, they weren't to know that at the time. Or they could have said to Lando, pit opposite Max. So if Max goes in the pits, you stay out. And then they could have tried an overcut. We saw Kimi Antonelli do an overcut, and at the end of the race, like, he didn't end up passing George, but he was 1.3 off of George over the line. And him compared to Lewis in that last stint was ridiculous. He was like a second a lap or something like that, faster than Lewis. So I don't know. I just wish McLaren had done something different with McLaren's strategy, like an overcut, to try and either an extreme undercut or an extreme overcut to try and just get him on through strategy instead of doing nothing. But
in McLaren's defense, so they've copped a bit of criticism about just being boring and not really trying anything. And that was that sort of letting someone stay out there longer and overcutting. Is like the thing that everyone thinks they should have tried, right? And because Kimi had all this success by staying out there so much longer and being really fast at the end on fresher tires or whatever. But again, they wouldn't have known that at the time, right?
That's it.
That would have been a complete Hail Mary. Like, let's just
for sure
see what happens. And there could have been every chance that he stayed out longer. His tires went to shit, and he
100%. 100%. Like, it's very easy for us to sit here and say, oh, we know more than the McLaren strategists. We don't. We're not in the moment. We're not sat on the pit wall. But yeah, I think the only thing, I can't remember if it was you or Lee that said it this morning when I got to the office. The only thing, and I think the reason a lot of people are focusing on it, is because from Oscar to Charles in fourth was like 15 seconds or something. So they had a buffer. So I think that's the reason everyone's blowing up about it, is because what was the worst that would have happened to Lando? He may have lost out to Oscar.
Yeah.
If that's the worst that's going to happen, but the best is that you could win the race, I'd be taking that every day of the week. But yeah, you are right. It's in the heat of battle, it's harder to make these decisions than it is for us 24 hours later sitting talking about it in a studio. I just want to talk about Williams because they're fucking gurus, obviously. I mean, this may as well be the Williams podcast at this point. Nice Aston Martin jacket, by the way, there, Skin.
Thank you.
But yeah, Carlos is actually looking a little bit better over this weekend. I know he had a bit of a shocking race, but just consistency within the car and the fact his qualifying time, he was a lot closer to Alex. I'm taking it. Skin, I'm chalking it up as a win. Don't pull that face. I'm chalking it up as a win, okay?
Makes no sense.
He's looking more consistent. He's getting there.
Okay.
He'll be on the podium by the end of the season.
Right.
No, he won't. He won't. Okay. I take that back. But Alex getting spicy on the radio with his engineers.
Yeah, what was that all about? He's an angry little man.
He's like a little...
I didn't know he had that in him.
No, neither did I. He's like a little soft little puppy outside of the car. And then the moment he gets into it, he's a fucking ferocious beast. That was unreal.
What was he blowing up about?
So the first thing he was blown up about was his shift sync of his gearbox. So like if you gear up or down, it's just like the speed in which it takes, or it's also could be to do with if you're like going down the straight, you're flat on the throttle And you kind of see on the steering wheel and you'll hear the revs and things that they'll go up, and then you know when to gear up at the maximum amount of revs. It just means that the sync map or his actual, gear shifting map or his actual gear shifting sync with the up and down was just not calibrated correctly, or it's just not been, it sounds like it's not been calibrated correctly all season. And it's just something they're making a very small mistake on, but it's having an effect in the race for him.
Right. And Max was blowing up about that same thing at the start of the race.
Yeah.
And both of them seemed to get it fixed during the race. Like Max's engineer said, you should start to feel a little bit better over the next lap or two. What the hell could they possibly have changed while he was out there driving?
It's not a lot. They can have different engine modes and things like that on the car, which can help it. What Max's engineer was talking about over the next few laps was the tires getting hotter and the fuel dropping. So the weight of his car would be different. So the way that the car would speed up or perform straight on acceleration would feel different as the fuel would come down and as the tires would heat up. Mm-hmm. So they were kind of they was the same kind of issue, but they were separate in how they dealt with them. Alex would have just had to deal with it. Like they wouldn't have been able to, you can't really fix that during a race. It's more of a setup thing that they need to get right on a Friday, Saturday. But yeah, he on the second time, Alex got quite spicy about the pit stop strategy. Basically just saying he thought that the Williams strategy team were wieners and that he was confused by them a lot of the time. Mm-hmm. I think was the exact word he said, not wieners, the confusion bit. Yep. Obviously. But yeah, I don't think that blow up was deserved because he was behind Behrman before the pit and then was ahead of Behrman after the pit. So I actually thought it was a fairly good time to pit. I just don't know if he was reading the race properly or knew that was a thing. And then maybe they told him and he was like, oh shit, yeah, sorry.
Okay. Yeah, because their response was essentially that, wasn't it? It was like, it was definitely worse if we pitted earlier. Yeah, they were like, there was no gap if we pitted earlier. Yeah. There was a gap now, we pitted you. Yeah. End of story. Yeah.
All right then, Skin. Driver of the day, biggest letdowns. You go first. Who is your driver of the day or weekend or whatever you want to, however you want to assess the situation?
Okay. My assessment of the situation was, well, obviously Max, quite good, pretty tough to look past him.
Yep.
Won the race. That's quite important in being the driver of the day. But assuming we have to ignore him because it was boring.
I'd be fine with you picking Max at this one because he was a guru all weekend.
Okay. All right. Well, that's fine. But I'll try and make something a little bit more interesting. The only other way I could really assess it was, I mean, pretty much there were no overtakes.
Yep.
No one really changed all that much. Mm-hmm. There were only two people that did. I think Doohan gained 4 places from his qualifying. So well done.
Good effort, yeah.
And Lawson lost 4 places from where he qualified.
So you're saying
not that well done.
Doohan driver of the day, Lawson biggest letdown.
That's my theory,
Yep. It's hard to look past that. I can see the logic.
Thank you.
Doohan had a fairly good race to say that he deck chaired, and by deck chaired I mean crashed into the wall in free practice 2. Mm. So yeah, quite a good recovery from Doohan. Did you see the Doohan thing after the race? We'll get onto this in a minute more. Actually, ignore that. Cut that out as well, Disc.
Sure.
My driver of the day, I went with Kimi Antonelli. I thought the way that he managed them tyres and just stayed out on mediums longer than Lewis stayed out on hards was just very impressive. And was, what was he, like 7-8 tenths or something slower than the McLarens or Max catching him? But, you know, when you kind of look at that with the tyre differential, he should have been a lot slower, like 1.5 seconds, 2 seconds slower. So he was really, what he did well was save his tyres in the early part and then use his tyres in that second part when he had clean air. He also became the youngest person to lead a lap, which is quite impressive. So I'll give him that.
Yeah. Stats like that are so weird.
Yeah.
Like,
F1's full of them.
Youngest person to lead a lap in the F1. It's like, yeah, the 5 people in front of him pitted.
Yeah. He did not get it on merit.
That's it.
Yeah, literally. But to be fair though, like you guys know safety cars, red flags, things like that. If we had gotten a red flag at the point of him leading, he could have won the race.
Well, that's true.
So, you know, if he had won the race, I'd be sitting here going, Guru, he won the race.
Yeah, okay.
I mean, he would have been massively aided by a red flag, but he still would have been in the history books.
That's true. They don't write that in the scorebook, do they?
No. It looked like asterisks on every single one. And then biggest letdown for me was McLaren. Just the team they let down the fans. They let down Oscar and Lando as individuals, and it was fucking boring. And I hope we have something better from them this weekend.
Okay. Yeah, I've always hated McLaren dogs.
Yeah.
I bought an Aston Martin jacket.
Yeah, you've also got a McLaren jacket in there now.
Yep. Yeah, I literally follow McLaren. I quite like them.
Yeah. You've got a McLaren phone case. You've got a McLaren bottle.
Yep.
You could not be more of a McLaren fan.
Yeah.
Apart from the Aston Martin jacket.
Apart from the Aston Martin jacket.
Yeah.
That's a whole other story.
Okay, we got some questions from some of the fools on Instagram. Ben asked the question: Why did Norris just drive into the grass, and why would they pit at the same time as Max? Exactly, Ben. Two valid questions. Two valid questions. Why would they? I wish I was Zach Brown or Andrea Stella to tell you why. I don't fucking know, but. Yeah, Norris driving into the grass was just, I think you summarized it quite perfectly earlier.
Yeah, I think that bit makes sense. If you'd have pitted at the same time as Max, which maybe you shouldn't have done. Yeah. Almost certainly you shouldn't have done, certainly in hindsight. But if you at the point when you have done that, if that's your only opportunity to get an overtake is he's had a slow pit stop and you're trying to get in front of him, then you're driving on the grass, give it a go. Yeah. See what happens.
It didn't damage his race, so why not? Yeah, give it a go. But yeah, pitting at the same time, that's why McLaren are my biggest letdowns, because wieners. Jaden,
game. Every time Dave said the word wieners in this episode.
Have I said it a lot? Holy shit. Sorry, Skin. Sorry, everyone. I might cut a few of them out. Jay said, boring ass race. Do we start to see more racers implement the mandatory two pit stops? Now, I don't think we should, because I think forcing cars to pit twice is a bit Wienersville. I know we're doing it at Monaco this year for strategy.
If I had any beer left, I'd take a sip.
Oh shit, I said wiener again. But I can see where you're coming from. And I, as a little like suggestion to Pirelli or Formula One or FIA, why don't we just have softer tires so they degrade faster, so that the stints, instead of doing a 50-lap stint on a hard tire, we have to do a 10-lap stint or a 15-lap stint, which could force a 2 or 3 stop strategy because tires are going to degrade and go off quicker. Come on, Skin. Put me in charge of Pirelli for once.
Wow. I like it.
Do you know what I'm saying?
I know what you're saying. Wait, sorry. Back to Jaden. Are there races where there are mandatory 2 stops?
Only Monaco this year, first ever time.
What for?
We've done, because it's fucking boring.
Oh, right. Okay.
It's been like really shit for like 5 or 6 years now. And so we want to spice it up. So they've gone mandatory 2 stops.
Okay.
So this is why this has been floating around a lot recently. And then from Montana, we had.
Sorry, Dirk.
Sorry, Skin.
You've moved on a little bit quick there. I'm still like blown away by your suggestion. Why is that not a thing?
I don't know.
Make everyone drive on softs. What?
Well, not even make everyone drive on softs. You know how we've got like 6 compounds?
Yeah.
They've been going really conservative this season and going, oh, we're going to choose the middle, or like we're going to choose a harder range. And obviously a harder range means they're going to go longer. I'm suggesting let's go softer. Let's go for the softest 3 range possible. Possible. And then just fucking let them degrade. Let the teams have like force their hand into pitting more. Don't make it mandatory because that's just boring. Make it like force them.
Dave, you are not as silly as you look.
I'm not as silly as I look. Thank you, Skip. I'm going to clip that bit up and that's going to be my new ringtone. Montana had a great, she had a couple for us. So the first one was with how unwell Jack looked after getting out of the car. Are the drivers being cleared to drive again way too quickly after big accidents? I didn't see this until I messaged Montana about it, because when I saw a message, I was like, what are you talking about? Like, wasn't Jack absolutely fine? And then she shows me this clip of Jack trying to get out the car. It takes him like a full minute to get out the car. And even as he does, he's clearly not putting weight onto his, I think it was his left wrist or something like that, which when he first gets out the car in free practice 2, like you see he's like holding his hand up like that.
That is a bit weird.
And after free practice 2, when the medical team got him out the car after the big crash, he was holding his arm and was in a lot of pain. So after the race, he's obviously still in that pain. And maybe the medical team have cleared him far too quickly. So yeah, I think there's definitely something there. Looking ahead, we've got the Bahrain Grand Prix as you're listening to this, because obviously everyone listens on day 1, Skin. That's just that's classic podcasting. It's free practice today. I wanted to tell you a few things to look out for at this track, which hopefully will get you excited for the weekend, and hopefully these 3 things come true. The first thing, tire degradation is king, especially on the rear tires. The surface is quite rough. It eats them up quite heavily. So giving, I mean, Pirelli may just go with the hardest fucking compounds here, but hopefully they don't. And hopefully the tires do degrade quite a lot and we see people struggling on their rear tires. This is where Red Bull might do like real shit because I haven't been the best at looking after the tires all season. McLaren should do good here. They're a lot better. That could bring something interesting and something a bit different from Japan. And also they're overtaking opportunities, way more overtaking opportunities at this track. So them two kind of go hand in hand. And then the last thing I wrote down was the sunset shift. So we obviously start during the day and then the sun sets and it ends in a night race at Bahrain. So it's an interesting one.
Why the hell would they do that?
Because it looks fucking cool on TV.
Yeah.
And also it's a different challenge because temperatures drop, track temp like levels out and then drops significantly. So yeah. So that also plays into the tire strategy.
Yeah, cool.
You know what I'm saying, Skin?
I do.
You hyped?
Very. Yeah, I will be there at 1 a.m. Brisbane time watching.
Good. Well, that wraps up another lap at the Formula Fools podcast. We hope you enjoyed the ride as much as we did. It's now your turn to join the Fools family by connecting with us on social media. Facebook is at Formula Fools. Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok is Formula_Fools.
Oh, yeah. You can also leave us a rating and review wherever you're listening. Apple, Spotify, places like that. Ratings, reviews. Give us a bit of content. If we could read out one of them in the next couple of weeks, that'd be great. And ratings just sort of help keep things moving up the charts. That would be lovely if you could help us out there.
Yeah, we do actually have a review. Will Gainsford sent us one. He said he tried to do it on Apple and Apple Awenas and it wouldn't let him post it. So he sent it to us on Facebook. So he titled the review, Dave the Brit, who actually knows some shit. Came across this from the Chockies podcast and have really enjoyed it. Sports mad and have always had an interest in F1, but great to get a bit more info into the oh my God, I suck at reading. Into the intricacies of F1. Good to see Dave the Brit actually knowing some shit and Skin bringing us his usual intensity. I highly recommend with a 5-star, aka Alex Albon or Carlos Sainz, not a 1-star, aka Lance Stroll. Yeah. So Carlos and Alex are the 5-star, Lance Stroll's the 1.
Yeah.
I read that a bit out of there's no punctuation in there, so that's not my fault.
Right. Okay.
Punctuation, is that right?
That's a thing. I didn't read it, so it's hard for me to comment on it.
Full stops and stuff like that. Is that punctuation?
That's punctuation.
Okay, yeah, okay, I got it right then.
Yeah, sweet.
Anyway, so if you want to drop another rating or review, then you can. Thank you for joining us at Formula Fools, where every turn is a chance for a good laugh. We'll see you next time.